Hi, you are live with Lila and
Raamel Mitchell.
you really, Raamel?
Really, Raamel.
I know you pretty well, but our audience is just getting to know you. You have a new title at Microsoft, right?
I do. So same role. Our team has changed just slightly in terms of our focus. We're really diving deeply into the work that we're doing across the U.S. As it relates to digital skilling and really driving a broad impact around innovation and economic development, economic recovery, and working with a number of our customers and partners and business strategy. So just a lot more. So we've changed our name from just citizenship and public affairs to our citizenship and market development team, and part of the AI and sustainability and market development team now. So under our office of chief digital officer. So
It's
it's a
so
little
cool.
bit.
It's been fun for me to see not just your growth, but also the growth and change that you have caused
Mm.
within Microsoft. So there's a whole episode that I did with Raamel earlier about him and his own path and what he has done to change the way that Microsoft does business. But what we want to talk about today is not just what Microsoft does to make money or to, how they're operating, but really how they are intentionally reaching out into communities where there are students who have not been served and students who have not been given the opportunity to learn the skills that kids need to grow up and have jobs like Raamel's.
Yeah.
So how are we going to make lots of new Raamels? Raamel, what did Microsoft announce today?
Well, hopefully we make something better than a lot of new Raamels. We're hoping for the Bryans and the James and the Sarahs and the Lilas and the just this rich diversity of folks in the technology field. But seriously, to answer your question, in terms of our announcement, and you'll see behind me, I have an image here that really represents one of the folks that we think that we can impact here, and that's the young people, the girls and boys that are in the classroom right now that are thinking about what they're going to be in the future, what impact they want to make. And so one of the things that we've thought about, particularly for quite some time, but now with COVID and the impact that that's had on digital equity, being able to have access to the tools and technology and connectivity, is that we have to ensure that our students, that our young people throughout the state, have access to digital skills that are necessary for them beyond COVID, that are necessary for them to be successful in a classroom. And so that's part of our announcement today, and driving digital skilling across the state with the Texas Education Agency. And we're just really excited about that partnership as well, because TEA is they're under a lot of pressure. It's not an easy organization time right now for the organization, rather, but they're really pushing hard.
Education Administration.
Yes, Texas Education Administration.
So this is the first of its kind in the country, though. This is the first.
It is.
It's the first time that any major technology company has partnered with a state to create digital equity throughout the whole state, isn't it?
Well, I think it's one of the first. I won't put a pin in saying the absolute first. I will say that from our perspective, it is the first time that we've looked at a state and that we've said, you know what, how do we impact digital equity, digital skilling across a state? And part of this is also identifying areas of economic development, areas for innovation, areas to support startups, and just the entire range of what's required to drive kind of the workforce of the future.
What's the problem that it's solving? What are some of the things that when people say here digital equity, they might not know what that means? What are some of the barriers that you've seen to achieving digital equity so far? How do we know we don't have it?
Yeah, so I mean, give you an example. If there are a number of students across the state today, a number of teachers across the state today, number of parents across the state that when COVID hit and they're at home and they're working, trying to figure out how do they connect to their educational process, that they didn't have the tools immediately available, right? We're seeing that in a lot of communities and rural districts. Texas has the largest rural population in the country. We have large urban populations, given the number of cities that we have and the size and the sheer density. And so we've seen students and parents struggle with having access. We've been working with Operation Connectivity across the state and partnering with our OEM partners to address that. We've also on the other side of that. So once you're connected, that's one part, right? And so one of the things that we've been thinking about quite a bit is how do we ensure that once you're connected, just because you have a device like you and I have right now, just because you have a device doesn't mean that you are connected. It doesn't mean that you have the technical skills necessary for the future of work.
Or even the interest or the subjects to know what to look to, right? Like I've got a bubble game on my phone. Somebody else has, and maybe, there's nothing wrong with having a bubble game if you also know what else you can do. But other people have a phone or a tablet or a computer and are changing the world through the digital landscape and have access to tools digitally, right? So tell us about what you're doing to give them other options.
Yeah, so one of the things here, and you speak to it, and you're speaking from the consumption or the consumer perspective, but there's an entire opportunity around learning the skills necessary so that you can become a producer, right? So when we think about Texas, oftentimes people, particularly outside of Texas, think oil and gas. And Mayor Turner, Sylvester Turner in Houston, has said this, time and time again. We have a great alliance with the city of Houston that we announced about a month and a half, 2 months ago, as well. And one of the things that he says is that, when we look at the city, we're looking at a smarter city. We have to have all of our citizens to be smarter, but Houston isn't just about oil and gas. Texas isn't just about oil and gas. We have such a diverse range of industries. We have aerospace. We have autonomous vehicle design and development, like the work that Bell is doing and other companies that are moving to Texas to do just that. We have work that's happening across the medical industry, like medical research that takes place here, particularly at Texas Medical Center or even UT Southwestern, a ton of work. But in order for us to continue building and growing and ensuring that we have the workforce for the future, we have to build that. Our students have to have the skills necessary, and the skills that we're seeing necessary, according to Brookings and, some of the research that we've done and LinkedIn and you name it, typically it revolves around problem solving, AI, computer science, the understanding of that, how technology will integrate, and the role and importance that the STEM fields will play moving forward into the 21st century. And so
we're going to need more people who know how to do those things.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to need more people.
Really to not just raise a village, raise a state. You're raising a state of Texas. I understand that this program that you've created for creating this workforce for digital equity is reaching out to kids as young as 5. Is that right? Like kindergarten through high school into college. You're really taking all the young people of Texas and preparing them to have those jobs.
Yeah, we are. I mean, when you think about it, the work that our great retail store teams are doing still across the state of Texas and across the U.S., we were rooted in going and engaging with schools, elementary, middle, and high schools, and ensuring that that we're preparing those students and even their parents and teachers with the skills necessary. So it might be modern workplace applications. It might be introduction to Hour of Code. It might be some type of entry level, but you get to this point here, and you're absolutely right, and that is we have to start young, and we have to realize that the time is now. We can't wait, because the governor actually does a great job with this. He in his video release supporting this alliance. And one of the things that he said was that, Texas has a robust economy, basically, right? And we're going to continue being leaders is basically what he was alluding to. I think he actually specifically said that, so it's not a direct quote. But the point here is that if we're going to continue driving a robust economy in Texas, if we're going to continue being leaders in growth and technology and the fields of science and engineering and oil exploration or energy 2.0, or autonomous vehicle design and development or advanced manufacturing, right? The financial services, right? We have to have a workforce that's prepared. Now, the other side of that is that if you're working today, right, you're at a company, you're thinking about, well, what skills do I need? Artificial intelligence, machine learning, some of these other, the same basic data science, all of that will come into play, because no matter where you are, no matter what company you're at, for the most part, every company to some extent is becoming a tech company. Whether it's how you reach your customers, how you manage your productivity, your operation, your expenses, how you market your business, how you convert that into funnels, how you're actually developing solutions. Every company in
how we deliver solutions,
how you deliver,
find talent. We're becoming a tech world. So we have been a tech world, and a lot of people have been left out of that because of income barriers, accessibility barriers, not having examples to look up to in their communities of people who have these jobs, so they don't think it's for them, not being proactively reached. So this is an intentional effort on Microsoft's part to go and find all of the people who have potential and get them while they're young, so that they don't have that confidence barrier that you have when you compare yourself. So let's say there's an 18-year-old who has had a life of education in STEM and has been infused with all of the confidence that they have from having proven to themselves that they can do this. And you have a different 18-year-old who's never tried and never been told that she should try exploring STEM. You're getting those people when they're young and nurturing them all the way through their educational growth, so that they will feel just as empowered and just as entitled to those seat at the STEM tables when they grow up.
You're so spot on here again, because when we think about this, there are a couple things here. So young students, we want to make sure that they're introduced so that they have this passion, right? Or no matter what they want to do in life, if they want to become an English professor, that's great. If they want to become a construction scientist, that's great. If they want to become an engineer, software engineer, that's great. But no matter what they're doing, the relevance that technology will play in their life is going to be even more important. Right. And you also touch upon this point, and that is the importance of diversity, right? Having girls at the table exposed to science and technology, engineering, mathematics, the STEM fields, but not just introduced, but also supported and mentored along the way. And that becomes even more important. So these type of alliances are important. So when we think about communities that have been historically disconnected, Black and brown communities, those communities that are in rural areas that haven't necessarily had access to, or you have a student that or a young person that's thinking about, well, you know what, I'm here out in Midland or Odessa, and this is what I see. But how can they connect? If you're out in the valley, how can you connect? If you're out in El Paso, how can you connect that? Or Amarillo, and you're seeing this, how do you connect your experiences to the future of work or the future of what you want to become? And that's important.
A lot of these startup pitch presentations, I'm a mentor for various tech startup incubators like Tech Wildcatters and Founder Institute and Tech Fort Worth, all here in Texas. And I see a lot of these new ideas in tech being presented in fields like agriculture. People who have drone technology that shows you where you should be focusing your fertilizer, where you have plants that are diseased, where you have opportunities to grow something using technology. So just like you were saying before, every field is becoming a tech field, but those people who are part of those communities who really can see the need firsthand, they know where the gaps are that could be filled with technology. It's most important to reach them so that they can then think, well, what in my community or what on my farm is needed, and how can I take a role in solving that through technology?
Yeah, spot on. And you list a lot of the technologies just in what you said, right? And so let's take farming, for example.
Yeah.
Texas is a huge farming state, right? Ranches and cattle and farms. Even if we just look at that field, and you look at the area of like drones and robotics, right? Autonomous vehicles, being able to measure or being able to cut grass, or being able to measure the amount of rainfall, so that you can think about, this is when my crops need to be measured. All of that is an IoT, or Internet of Things engagement, right? You're collecting a lot of data. You're analyzing that data. Well, who's thinking about that? If we don't have this diversity of experiences, this range of experiences, whether you have a kid that's in Oak Cliff, or you have one that's on a farm somewhere out in Lee County or something to that effect, you need both in order to create like this really rich environment. And so this actually gets me to brings me to the other point. So while a good bit of the work that we're doing with TEA, the Texas Education Agency, is focused on students, we're thinking about the future, and there are two components here. With this alliance, we're also announcing Microsoft Imagine Academy for free.
Oh, talk about that. What is Microsoft Imagine Academy?
So Lila, you're the first one here to have that. So that's going to be free to every high school in the state. So what does that do? Basically, what that does is we're providing a tool that will allow students to learn certain technologies and pathways, gaining pathways to certifications. And we know that if a student is graduating and they have multiple certifications, not only are they college ready or more college ready, but they're also career ready, right? They're more career ready. They're more competitive.
Yeah. What kind of certification? So, for example, what might be one that someone could get?
So there are cloud-based certifications. There are certifications, some general certifications that are oftentimes available are like even for like Excel, right, or PowerPoint. But we can go as deep as other cloud-based certifications that are really deep. These are Certiport certifications. So basically, what happens, a student will go through, they'll take all their training. And then they have the opportunity, working with their schools and school districts and the regional ESCs, to actually have a voucher that will allow them to take a certification. That's usually the process that works there. But
a voucher? Is it free?
Yeah, so it is, generally speaking, for the student. It usually is free, and so because the schools usually take that cost, and we're looking at a very, very minimal. In the case of LinkedIn, we are providing a set of just either absolutely low cost or free certifications, as well as part of our global skilling initiative. And so
this is not just for kids. This is for adults.
It's just not for kids. The LinkedIn Global Skilling Initiative, when we're partnering with LinkedIn across the state for this as well, provides that skilling. There are a number of courses that you and I could take, right? We go through the courses, we could get certifications, and each one of those certifications will either help you in your job, or it will help you as you're thinking about your next role. And even here being at Microsoft, one of the things that we all have to do every year, we take a ton of training. We go through hours and hours of training each year, and we have to upskill. We've gone through Challenger training. We've gone through training in our specific areas of interest. We do cross-industry training, right? And so when we look at these tools, whether you're at a startup and you're trying to skill up your employees, or you're at a manufacturing facility and you have employees that are being impacted by automation, how do you learn those employees to do something else? The training that's available now, either via LinkedIn, via some of the work that we're doing across the state, and also other partners that we're working with across the state, can help.
How do people find it? How do they find these courses and get these certifications and get into this Microsoft Imagine Academy?
Yeah, so Imagine Academy would be available for students across the state, again, high school students, and so they can work with their school district to identify how they actually will leverage Imagine Academy. for the Microsoft LinkedIn training. You can go to LinkedIn. And in fact, I think I sent you a link a little earlier, and maybe we can put it, I don't know if we should say we put it down below or over here or over here.
Yeah, I can make and it'll show up on YouTube. I'm not sure if it'll show up on LinkedIn, but I'll add it here. Here's a very long link. I'll also edit the text that goes with this post after we're live, so people can go back and find it later. But if you even just, Google or, what should someone do a search for?
I think they should actually Bing it.
Bing it. Okay, use a Microsoft product. You're a very good ambassador.
So I think once you go through, you can Bing the actual link here, but we do have the link here, but it's the under one of our industry blogs, and they can look up Accelerate Texas, and they should be able to find that post come up as well. And so there's that link as well.
Okay, I'm gonna make one Accelerate Texas, like a little bit.ly link, just a short one.
Yep.
Here for the rest of the time that we're talking, people should be able to see this. Oh, we have a question too from Sixto Lopez. How impactful is STEM in the diversity and inclusion arena?
Yeah. Oh, Sixto, hey, how are you doing? Thank you for that question. So how impactful is STEM in the diversity and inclusion area? It's incredibly impactful. I mean, we need it to actually be more impactful. Here's why. We find that when students actually are engaged early in the STEM fields, and they continue to have that exposure, that the rate of graduation, so high school graduation and them entering into the STEM fields increases dramatically. Now, here's why it's also important. As we think about even like technologies like artificial intelligence per se, it's great to have a diverse range of views, backgrounds represented in the data scientists and in the data that are producing AI. We want to make sure that the information, that the code that's created reflects, I think, society as well. And so D&I is important. D&I is important for us at work. We serve a global community. We serve, in this case, the state of Texas. So we want to think about the range of the impact of D&I in those communities that we serve as well. So it's a great question, particularly now. I know that's been on the top of many people's minds, most of our minds, given like this year and everything that's occurred. So we have, and as well as our industry has been thinking about D&I quite a bit. And historically, Microsoft has been, and we're continuing to double down and focus on that area.
We have a question from my friend Manny Faces. He's been in the hip hop community for a long time and is one of the most brilliant speakers I've heard about using hip hop as a means of connection and delivery. His question is that he would love to know the extent of the focus on cultural relevancy or responsiveness, particularly with youth of color. Tools are great, but how they are presented is just as important. For instance, we work with many organizations using hip hop music and culture to introduce, engage, and mentor young people in areas like coding and robotics, and it can help make a big difference. So how are you going to get these kids? How are you going to get them excited? And are you using any kind of relevant cultural tools, tips, tricks, inclusions?
Yeah, so man, great. I love this. This is my favorite question that I've had in like 10 years.
I'm going to introduce two of you offline too. You should definitely have a conversation.
Yeah, so man, I'm a huge music fan, former DJ, a bad one, right? Like high school, little college DJ. I still have I have turntables in my house. Like, I think music and art and design, the arts in general, like play a key role for making things relevant, right? And so it's kind of the soul of what we do. And if you think about like app design and development, it really is leveraging that same type of creative process that you would use if you were like creating a song, right? If you're,
Oh,
creating a composition, right? Because basically what you're doing, you're taking the blend of all of these different elements and you're mixing it into a product, right? So Jay-Z isn't necessarily sitting down coding, or Kanye isn't necessarily doing that, or Talib or what have you. They're not necessarily, but the framework that they use in their music is oftentimes very similar to a coder, right? Or a software engineer. They're looking at this through both a technical lens and an artistic lens oftentimes. And in fact, the other piece here, if you think about some of your best apps that you use, those experiences are made more rich, or made richer when it has a great design. Design oftentimes is an artistic function, not necessarily purely an engineering function. So that's kind of like a general answer. My background is engineering,
yeah.
but I'm probably an artist at heart.
Well, I think that there's so many people who are engineers who've said to me, well, I'm not creative. And I'm like, yes, you absolutely are. First of all, I don't accept that from anybody, that they're not creative, right? But the process of thinking, it presents itself in a different way. But either way, you are creating something where nothing was before. That is a creative process.
Absolutely. I mean, a scientist or an engineer will look at something and then try to fix that problem, right? The engineers solve problems. That's it. I'm going to go back to Manny's question here too, in the sense of, so what have we done in the past? Every event that we have, every like USpark, if you go and you look at like USpark Live Dallas, or you look at 2017, 2016, I think 2018, we did a USpark Live in Dallas. Every event has music. It has a DJ. We've worked with like Lady Jade from K104 and Project 16. We try to bring that in, because not only to inspire kids, because music can be so inspirational, but we've worked with organizations. And in fact, one out of St. Louis, which is, now I can't think of the name, Breach. This is Breach with Ronnie Notch. And we brought in like some DJs and artists to actually show this is the process for making songs and then taking them to market. And then into the Dallas area, we've worked with the Confidence Group, who's played a key role in bringing in bands and DJs. And then in Houston, we're doing some work with Reading with a Rapper, right? And so,
tell me about that.
You may know Common.
Reading with a Rapper? Oh, Common?
Spokesperson. So, yeah, I love the question.
He's doing. I want to.
Yeah.
And so when we have these kids too, and you think about like the music that's integrated into things, people who are making decisions about how to even launch a program like this, you have to intentionally think about what is the music, what is the language, what is the art that resonates with the culture of the kids we're trying to reach. What's their objective? What do they want to feel? And for the kids who you do reach, they're going to be the ones who get to represent their communities and make sure that they have a voice in the cultural aspect of creation. So as they keep growing and as they keep developing things themselves, they're going to be able to develop things that not only solve the problems of the people in their communities, but represent them in communication as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that'll be exciting. Is there anything specific that we should know about this program that we can do to support it?
Thank you. So this is helpful, right? Really amplifying this. We want to accelerate the number of students that are pursuing careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We want to accelerate the number of those that are in the workforce that are trying to upskill, add new skills to their current skill set, right? So that if they're thinking about transitioning to a new role or a new job, that they have the ability to do that. That's so important. We want to really just kind of accelerate and amplify. Nipsey Hussle, I think he says, hustle and motivate, right? In one of his songs. I think that's all we're trying to do here. We have a program called Make Hustle Happen through our Microsoft retail stores.
Make Hustle Happen.
Make Hustle Happen, right? That focuses on entrepreneurship and innovation. A good bit of that is around what we're doing. We have to as individuals continue thinking about our skill development. We do. And the world that we live in and the future of work will require us to work differently, think differently, solve problems differently, innovate differently, interact virtually, which is different for many
Right.
of us, working from locations that we're not necessarily used to working from, on hours and everything else that
Right.
we're probably not used to. And we've never done this, for this extent, this connected in human history. So what would that require? It's going to require us to move forward. So the help specifically is to, reach out to us. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Check out the blog. I will say that I'm horrible and late on emails. Oftentimes,
stuff to do,
but if you put Accelerate Texas in the subject line, I'll get back to you. My SLA will probably be about 72 hours or so for the next week, but we'll get back, because if there's something that we can do, if you have a school district that's interested, if you have an entrepreneur center that you're thinking about, if you have a company and you're thinking about, well, I work at this large company, and my company needs to hear a message around innovation and how do we upskill our employees and how do we leverage technology and what is data science, let us know, because that's something that we can come and support as well. And then again, we have a broad network of Microsoft retail store team here still available that can go out and help, and they do such a wonderful job oftentimes in the communities, but also in corporations as well.
They do an incredible job. I've been to the Microsoft store in up in northern Dallas.
Yeah,
I think it's like now I don't remember the name. The Galleria,
North Park. But so all of our stores are virtual now, but we still have the support mechanisms.
Those people are still there. Yeah. So we need to make sure that everybody can still have that experience, have that digital support and understand and interact that way. But it is different, right? It's not the same as being in person. But it is our new reality. I was talking with a second grade teacher. Yes, thanks, Michael. North Park. I was talking with a second grade teacher today named Nick Knight. He's in Tennessee. He's from North Carolina. And I'm working with him on my friend Kristen Sherry's book launch for You've Got Gifts, where she's going to give a bunch of these books about knowing who you are, your strengths, your interests, your skills, your personality, and just your values, things that are important to you. She's giving a book to each of the second grade students at his school. This is what we're doing in the virtual landscape for a book launch. And we're doing it via Zoom to deliver to his students. That's what they're using. He's teaching them on this virtual platform, and we're launching somebody's book by sending them physical copies, so we actually reach them where they are, and then involve them in this digital environment where we get to have her pour into them and have their teacher helping them to be engaged both in a physical book and in a digital space at the same time. Are there any considerations for physical delivery of these digital experiences to bridge the gap where people don't have them?
Yeah. So whenever we come out from this COVID umbrella we've all been in, our goal is to do as many to do not just virtual events. I think we're always, at this point, we are always going to have a virtual presence. There are now the Pandora's box on virtual events, presentations, meetings, conferences has been open. It's wide open. Virtual education is wide open. But where possible, particularly after COVID, I think that we will be returning to some events happening in person. That's what we were doing prior to, where we would either be at our stores or at a conference or at a school or at another company, and we would have a location that we would all physically be located. That's going to probably change. It's going to be interesting to see how that looks. But I would anticipate that would be the goal, like as we move forward over the next number of months. One of the other things that I would also say, in what you said about this physical presence being so important important. One of the things that we're doing as a company, we're going through a number of us, number of folks at Microsoft have been participating and reading and following Brene Brown and doing some of the work that she's been doing, and then also with Stevenson out of Brian Stevenson out of Alabama. And one of the things that we've learned through this process, two words that come to mind: one, empathy, and then the other, proximity. And so there's been a good bit that's being built, hopefully, into the DNA of our company, but broader, our ecosystem, into how that plays a role in engagement. So when we think about landing digital skilling, it's empathy in action. When we think about Black and Brown communities, it's empathy in action. When we think about rural communities, where folks that have been there for tons of, for decades, that haven't had access, that's empathy in action. When we think about a young girl that wants to be an astronaut, right, but doesn't see herself, at the control. That's it. If we can help spark that becomes empathy in action. But we have to be close, and the definition of proximity is changing, right? So I feel close now to you because we're on this video call. When we're back at a point where we can deliver these sessions and programming and training, and where we can actually sit down with our customers and whiteboard here on some of the work that we're doing. I love this shot where there's a student that's working on a Raspberry Pi or doing some other work. When we can do that again, that's proximity. And so when we think about empathy in action, proximity, that's key. And I think that's something that's kind of leading the way for us as we think about this accelerate motion that we've had, that we've been talking about in this discussion, and that we're having across the state of Texas, and other locations as well in Houston. All of that comes into play.
This is a big deal. This is a big thing, is you're reaching kids where they are and reaching adults where they are too. And I've seen so many people unemployed during the COVID crisis, and then seeing that not only is there not another job, or that their job might not be recreated, that their job might be phased out altogether. It's caused a lot of companies to be looking at all of the roles that they have and look at what's, I don't want to say expendable, but what doesn't fit with the future model of their company, and how they can start hiring now towards a future model. Now that everything is virtual, now that we are phasing out the need for some of those old roles, the people are still so valuable.
One of my favorite lines, this is a philosophy that, Frank Lloyd Wright made famous, if you will, and that is form follows function, right? And so companies now are thinking about their function, right, in this type of economy, in this type of environment. Now, what form will the business or the corporation or the organization, nonprofit, Fortune 25, Fortune 100, whatever that might be, state and local government organization, education enterprise, you name it, a club that you might belong to, the form of that organization is based on the function of what they're trying to drive, their strategy, their research, development, their product, the products that they drive, how they recruit, how they train. All of that is now kind of up for debate to a certain degree.
Up for review and up for up leveling it. Getting everything more digital, more tech infused, tech supported, that people can use technology now at companies to get their mission implemented. And it looks like Microsoft is kind of walking its own game here with the the mission of Microsoft, if you want to give it to us, and how that relates to this program.
Well, you know what? I'll say this. It's not just me like reciting it. You can ask anyone at Microsoft, anyone. If they've been there more than 2 weeks, they probably heard this. And we use this in, I think, our interview process now. But our mission is to empower every organization and individual on the planet to achieve more. Right? Like that's a powerful mission. The mission itself says that you have to have proximity in order to deliver on that mission. You have to have empathy in your values in order to deliver on that mission, right? And so that means every individual, no matter where they live, no matter the neighborhood, no matter their political affiliation, you have to help every individual, and that's our charge. We are charged with empowering every individual and organization. And when we look at it like that, it's so important for us to think about not only that student in the classroom, but that parent that's supporting, that person that's in the IT department that's thinking about, well, how do I deploy this? Should I use Active Directory? Should I build my own data center, or should I just go to the cloud and leverage Azure? That educator that's thinking about, well, how do I deliver this class? Maybe I should use Flipgrid. Maybe I should use Teams. Maybe I should use something else, right? That instructor, that professor that's thinking about some data science course or hackathon that's coming up, or that technology startup that's thinking about that next great thing, right, that they're building, right? And so we have to think about that on a number of levels for our Fortune 10s, for our Fortune 1000s, for people that are fortunate, right? For folks that just have a dream and they're trying to make something happen, and those that they have a vision and they're trying to achieve it, and they believe that technology can be a helpful catalyst to make their dreams come true. And so that's where our mission is rooted.
It's beautiful to hear you talk about it, and really to see it in action, where you were saying empathy in action, hearing you just off the top of your head, really going through each of those individual people's objectives, what it is that they dream about, and how Microsoft is serving them to achieve more towards that dream. When you say every individual, every team, every business, but also every individual, that this program that you're doing in partnership with the state of Texas to increase digital equity in the whole state, starting with each kid. What does each kid dream? What does each kid have access to? When you say every individual, you really mean it, and so does Microsoft. So do I. I love it. I want to help the whole world communicate better. And I've been told you got to niche down. I'm like, no. Communication is for everyone, and so is technology, isn't it?
That's it. It's funny when you said that, and you continue to emphasize every individual. Yeah. There's someone that we're working with, Stedman Graham. He's delivered a number of our sessions for us around identity leadership. You have to know who you are. You have to know who you are as an individual. You have to know who you are as an organization. And so the thing that he always will say is that it starts with one person, and it's a one person. Each person has to have that identity. They have to understand who they are. They have to be empowered. They have to think about their vision of what will be accomplished. They have to think about, and right now that's so important, because each person that's watching this, each person that will watch this, has been impacted by some form or fashion by the circumstances that we are all collectively undergoing right now with COVID in some form or fashion. Even if it's, hey, look, I'm just watching television and I'm getting all of this information, to those that are actually really suffering, or those that know someone that have, or those that are just been at home. If you don't have a vision, it's hard to see beyond that. If you don't have hope, it's hard to see beyond that. If you don't feel empowered, it's hard to develop. If you don't have the skilling necessary that you're building upon right now, like right now, when the economy does come back, are you going to be prepared?
Right.
If you don't have a technology partner that's going to help you, are you going to be prepared? If you don't have a instructor or a mentor or someone that's helping you say things better, are you going to be, you like to just kind of drop that in there.
Yeah, I do like it.
Say things better.
Your check is in the mail.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I think that we've explored a lot of elements of the program, which have been really exciting, and I'm looking forward to learning more about them and following the process. I'm going to look for the news about what's going on, how it's going, seeing the stories of students and also adults who go through these programs of yours that change their lives. And I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing about those. I'm sure you are too.
Same here. Thank you so much again, Lila. And as a Dallas resident and someone that grew up in Oak Cliff, that's been able to now see this land across the state of Texas. I really appreciate your partnership on this and the interview and your friendship and you elevating and accelerating this message as well. And it means a ton to us. It means a ton to me. So thank you again. Really appreciate it. And I've enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks for being here. Thanks to the audience for your questions. Manny, I'm going to have to connect you to Raamel.
Okay.
Everybody else watching the replay, enjoy. Go to this little link here or look up Accelerate Texas Microsoft on Bing and learn for yourself what's going on. Thanks so much.
All right. Awesome. And they can all use Bing as well.
Yes,
thank you for that.
We can all use Bing. We can all use Bing.
All right. Awesome. Thank you again.